Membership burnout can be considered sometimes as the silent killer for many organizations. Hello, my name is Hunter Schubert, and I'm here to talk about what membership burnout is. Today, I want to talk about its effects on organizations and the workplace as a whole, but I also want to intertwine my research with the problems that Ball State Student Government Association is currently facing. Then I will talk about a solution to the organization's current problem, and finally conclude on why all this information is important for you to know when entering into the workplace. Now, to start, burnout is defined as an emotion that consists of overwhelming exhaustion, feelings of frustration, anger, and cynicism. This emotion essentially inhibits members of an organization from being able to be productive within that organization. If burnout is widespread among members, it can potentially cause the organization to crumble. Burnout is a constant issue organizations face every day, and is an issue that Ball State Student Government Association, or SGA, is constantly challenged with. Now, SGA is a student-run organization whose purpose is to be the voice for the student body to the university. And after interviewing with the organization's president, James Wells, it became abundantly clear that burnout doesn't just randomly pop up between members of SGA, which is a fairly common experience within all organizations, but is a predictive problem for that organization. This prevents the organization from being able to grow and truly make an impact to address the needs and concerns of the students on its campus. A solution to address this issue is to have SGA create a new executive Senate whip position, whose duties would consist of ensuring the general members of SGA, who are the senators, are creating and proposing authentic legislation to be put forth for SGA Senate. Now, before we go too deep into this, I do want to give you a little background on why this problem is occurring. To start out, the need for this position has arisen from the predictive nature of its members becoming burnt out. According to Mr. Wells, there seems to be a widespread member burnout during the end of October to the beginning of November, and then happening again the following year in April. And this cycle repeats itself every year. This is a serious problem, because this causes the organization to be drowned in partisan politics, which doesn't allow the organization to be able to propose or pass legislation. Now, to be clear, legislation is the key to SGA making an impact on addressing the needs and concerns of students on Ball State's campus. Now that we've kind of gone into this predictive issue that SGA is facing, I want to talk about how this issue came to be. It seems that the fuel causing this widespread burnout are actually the senior members within SGA. They dissent new members from submitting legislation, basically not encouraging them or being there for them to write legislation. This is a form of dissent called latent dissent. In a 2007 communication study by Dr. Avegis, latent dissent is defined as when individuals perceive no productive avenue for dissenting, and as a result, they express their dissent to other frustrated members as opposed to those who can actually bring about effective change. Now, they continue to go on why this is important, because a high level of latent dissent can actually prevent organizations from being able to effectively address the issues that members have. This then creates a high level of frustration for the members of the organization, which in turn will create higher levels of burnout for the members. Currently, the president of SGA has tried to address this issue of burnout by himself. However, this technically is not part of his position's duties, and in fact, there really is no position within SGA whose job is to hear out the dissents of senators to be able to bring about effective change for them. Now, To be clear, dissent within an organization isn't necessarily a bad thing. Actually, on the contrary, it should be welcomed within all organizations. This is because of, and well described in an article, a communications report in 2008 by Dr. Casing. He describes where when organizations create outlets for open dissent, that's actually heard, it creates an environment where the members will feel that the organization is being just and that their concerns are earnestly being addressed. This in turn allows members to be more productive within that organization. Now, though Mr. Wells has tried to create this environment, he failed to adequately address it because he has to focus on so many other duties that his position calls for. Duties such as meeting with administration, Senate committees, and university governing systems, giving presentations for various student organizations and gathering their issues and concerns, and then bringing those issues and concerns to the Senate body. Other executive officers have many other similarly long lists of duties where they also cannot adequately become the avenue for hearing their senators' dissent. Now, that we've kind of talked about this predictive issue that SGA is facing and how it became an issue, I want to talk about my proposed solution and why I feel that this solution adequately addresses this issue. The executive whip position that I'm proposing would essentially be considered as a chief dissent officer position in the organization. In a 2012 Fast Company business article, Mr. Ryan Holiday describes a chief dissent officer, or CDO, as an executive member whose job is to support great creative ideas, but also be the one to shut down the many horrible ideas that can be presented within an organization. This happens more than many executives may think and can actually drown out and slow down the organization. Many times, organizations fail to adequately create avenues where members can express their dissent. By creating a new and unique executive position whose job is to hear the ideas, dissents, and legislation of senators, it will help create an environment for senators to feel that their needs are earnestly being heard and addressed. This will lower the frustration within the organization, which in turn will help lower the predictive rates of burnout between the organization's membership, thus helping the organization be more productive as a whole. Now, that before we go into how all this information is helpful for you going into the workplace, I want to summarize and conclude my findings with SGA's burnout problem. Too many times, executives of organizations do not put in the thought needed to create adequate avenues to hear their membership's dissent within the organization. As an afterthought, executives typically add this responsibility to already existing executive positions, whose original purpose was not to become this avenue for organizations' general members. Ball State's Student Government Association is of no exception. This is why SGA needs to create a new executive position, a whip position, whose job is to hear the ideas, listen to the dissents, and encourage legislation from senators. This will only alleviate the president, who has been trying to do this by himself when it wasn't his original job, but will also help create the environment needed to adequately address their predictive widespread membership burnout. Now, as I conclude, I want you to keep this in mind as you yourself are entering into the workplace. When you go to the original interview of going into a new workplace, you should be asking them these following questions. What is their culture like? What is their opinion on dissent? And are there healthy avenues to express dissent? If at any point in time while you're in this interviewing process and you feel that the employer does not encourage open dissent or feedback from their employers, you may want to reconsider working there. Because you don't want to be the one who will be subject to mass burnout within that employment. Not only will it be bad for you, but it will also be a bad culture just to get into. I want you to keep this in mind as you continue on through your career in college and on. And I want to thank you so much for having me speak on this topic. Thank you.